Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to go over completing the square. Completing the square is another way to solve quadratics if you don't want to use the quadratic formula. So it's just another method. I'll be honest, I really don't use this method a lot, but you do need to know how to recognize the form and the breakdown of it because in the Regents it has had one question that I can remember involving completing the square, and you have that chance of having it on there, and I don't want to not teach it to you because I want to give you guys the chance to know how to do it. It's also a really great topic that you might use for like pre-calc and calculus if you move on to that in college or if you move on to that in general. But so regardless, let's learn completing the square. The do now is basically a review of the quadratic formula. So what we're going to do is make this A is 1, B is 6, and C is 10. Remember the formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 6 squared, minus 4, a is 1, c is negative 10, all over 2a. I'm going to get x equals negative 6 all over 2 plus or minus, this is going to be 36 minus, well, plus 40. So this is going to reduce to 76, so square root of 76. And then break that up into 4 and 19. That'll get you 2 square root of 19. You're going to end up getting x equals negative 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 19 over 2. And then you're going to simplify. So it'll be negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 19. That's your answers. Okay, so this is a little section where it describes the steps of completing the square. But what we're going to do is just move on. And this is the exact question that I did in the do now. But we're going to do it with completing the square. So the first step is to make sure you move over the 10. Any number or constant that's next to the letters, you're going to move over. And then you're going to put a blank here. Now here's the deal. What you want to do is you want to complete the square. And completing the square is making a perfect square in a way. So what you want to do is your goal is to get a number here that would allow you to do AM and factor into the same exact thing and the same exact thing. Now if you think AM, what number would add to 6? That would be the same number, and it should be 3 and 3. Then what's 3 times 3? It's 9. And that's the number would be added on either side. Remember, whatever you add on either side, you need to do that so you keep the equation balanced. Be 19. Because there are 2 of these, you can now write them as a square. You completed the square. That's the goal. You want to make this a perfect square trinomial that factors into AM with 2 exact factors. Then what you're going to do is you're going to square root either side because you want to solve for x. Remember, whenever you put a square root into a problem, you must put the plus or minus in there because squaring a positive and squaring a negative give you the same result, positive. Then you will subtract 3, and you'll end up getting your answer of x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 19. And oh my goodness, this is the same exact answer that we had up here. So again, completing the square is just another way to solve quadratics. Of course, always check if you can do AM, but completing the square is another way to do it if you don't like the quadratic formula. It works every time. It's actually quicker. You don't have to memorize a formula. You just have to know the process. So we're going to do a few of these, and we're going to get right through this lesson. So minus 10. So you have x squared minus 6x plus blank equals negative 10, and put a blank on this side. Now if you remember back in Algebra 1, you learned that to get this, they used to call it the magic number, because it would be the number that makes it a perfect square trinomial. And the way that you find it is you do b divided by 2 and square it. So you would do negative 6 divide it by 2 and square it. Negative 3 squared, you get 9. Okay, but the logic that I used in the problem before works as well. So you would say to yourself, well, I want to get a perfect square trinomial and I want to add to negative 6. Well, what number that is the same would add to negative 6? And that would be negative 3 and negative 3. Then what is negative 3 times negative 3? That's a positive 9. And that's what you would add on the other side. Okay, so either you want to use the magic number formula, which is this guy here, or use my logic process. Negative 10 plus 9 is going to get you a negative 1. Then you'll have the same thing here. You completed the square, so you're going to have a perfect square right there. And then you're going to square root, boom, boom. And because you squared rooted the squared, it cancels it out. And again, the reason why we're doing that is because that's the opposite of a squared. And because you square rooted, you need a plus or minus. And square root of negative 1 is what? It's I, people. That's where the i's are going to come back. Add the 3 over, and you're going to get x equals 3 plus or minus I. I personally think this is quicker than the quadratic formula. But again, I always use the quadratic formula because I just have a formula in front of me and I know how to plug into one. Okay. So, first step, add over the fraction. Plus 1x. Sorry, I'm just doing that, and I'm doing it because you're going to need to know what b is to get the magic number. So remember, the magic number formula is this. So it'd be 1 divided by 2 and squared. That would get you 1/4. So 1/4 is your magic number. Which makes sense because, think about this. What two numbers that are the same add to 1? 1/2 and 1/2. What's 1/2 times 1/2? 1/4. This will get you 4 over 4, which will reduce to 1. I got 4 over 4 because I'm adding the numerator and keeping the same denominator because remember you need a common denominator to add fractions. This will get you x plus 1/2 all squared because there's 2 of them. Square root. These will cancel out. You'll get x plus 1/2 equals plus or minus 1 because you took a square root. Subtract 1/2. And then you're going to get x equals negative 1/2 plus or minus 1. Now look, there are no radicals here, there are no i's here, so correct math would be to split this up and find the actual two answers. So when you do that, now people remember you need common denominators to add these guys. So what's 1? It's 2 over 2, and what's 1? 2 over 2. This will allow you to add them. So negative 1 plus 2 is 1 over 2, which makes sense because 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. So that's one answer, and the other answer would be negative 3 over 2, or 1.5. Okay, moving right along. This one's a bit of a monster, and there's numbers in front, so I'm only going to do 1/2 of this, but if, maybe I should do both, because maybe I'll ask you guys to try the other one on your own. Hopefully you would try it on your own. So, it's just like that one example we did in the previous lesson where you have to do 2 at the same time. Okay, so here's the issue here. You cannot complete the square if there is a number in front of x squared. So what you have to do is divide the whole problem by that number. And that would reduce this to be x squared minus 5 over 2x plus 1 equals 0. And then once you've done that, now you can start completing the square. So subtract the 1. You'll get x squared minus 5 over 2x, leave a space for that magic number, equals negative 1 and the magic number on the other side, because we need to keep the equation balanced. Alrighty. Now we want a negative 5 over 2, so these are both going to be negative. So with examples like this, you probably want to use this trick, divide it by 2 all squared, because it makes your life easier. So when you do that, you're going to find your magic number is 25 over 16, which makes a lot of sense because this reduces to 5 over 4 and 5 over 4. and that would reduce to 10 over 4, which is 5 over 2. 25 over 16 over here. And then when you add those guys together, of course you can use your calculator and type in -1 plus 25 over 16 and press math fraction. You do want everything in fractions, but if you just do 16 over 16 and you guys do -16 plus 25, you should know that's 9 over 16. I know fractions, super scary, but you guys can handle this. Just put your thinking caps on. There are 2 of them, so they're the same, so I square it. I'm going to take the square root of this, cancel this out. I'll get x minus 5 over 4 equals plus or minus, because I square rooted 3 over 4. Where to get the 3? Square root of 9. Where to get the 4? Square root of 15. Add our 5 over 4 over there to join the party. You have x equals 5 over 4 plus or minus 3 over 4. Remember in the last problem I said you need to find both answers. So we're going to do 5 over 4 plus 3 over 4, which is 8 over 4, which reduces to what? 2. And then you're going to do 5 over 4 minus 3 over 4. What's 5 over 4 minus 3 over 4? It would be 2 over 4, which reduces to 1/2. Amazing. Those are your answers. 2 and 1/2. Well, part of your answers, because there's another half of this problem. What is it? I don't know. Okay, so I suggest you pause the video and try this one on your own. But I do remember this one being very interesting. So I'm dividing by 3. So hopefully you did that first. Again, pause it, try it. You'll never know if you know how to do it unless you try it on your own. Okay, so x squared minus 4 over 3x plus 1/3 equals 0. Start to complete the square. Subtract 1/3. I'm going to take this nice and slow because I haven't done this problem yet. I left my space for my magic number, and now I'm going to find my magic number by doing -4 over 3, divide that by 2, and square it. Now you can do this in your calculator. If you get your calculator out and you press alpha y equals, I would suggest first doing parentheses, then alpha y equals, enter, and then you're going to do -4 divided by 3 on the top, all over 2, and then you're going to square that. You'll get 4 over 9. That's your magic number. This will reduce to, we'll take care of the other side in a second. So we want both negatives because we want -4 over 3. And this should make sense. Really all you have to do is square root it, and it'll tell you 2 over 3 and 2 over 3, which is 4 over 3. And then -1, well, we can't add just now because they're not both 9, so I need to change this to 3 over 9. And you'll end up getting 1/9. So let's just check that. I had -1/3. -1 divided by 3 plus 4 divided by 9. Math fraction. If I put the right number in, I would know if I was correct. Yep, okay, good. And then we know that these are the same. So we can square it. Equals 1/9. Then you're going to square root to get x alone. So x minus 2 over 3 equals plus or minus 1/3. Add the 2 over 3. X equals 2 over 3 plus or minus 1/3. Again, you're finding the actual answers here. So you're going to do 2 over 3 plus 1/3, which gets you 3 over 3, which is 1. So that's one of the answers. And then 2 over 3 minus 1/3, which is 1/3. That's your answers. So if you notice, we got 4 answers for this problem because there were 2 squareds. So those are your 4 answers. Okay, so recall from geometry. I know, very scary to think back to geometry. This is the equation of a circle. Now, you should see the similarities between this equation and the completing the square process. You see all the squareds Well, that's because there's a squared in the completing the square process. The h and the k is your center, and the r is your radius. Remember, you used to change the sign to find the center, and you would square root the r squared to get the radius. So, like, let's just backtrack. If you saw a circle that was like this circle equation, you would know that the center was 3 comma negative 2, and then you would know the radius was 4 because you would square root this, and then that would tell you how to plot your center. So you'd go over 1, 2, 3, and down 2, and then you would count 1, 2, 3, 4 out, 1, 2, 3, 4 up, 1, 2, 3, 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4 down. This is a really accurate circle, guys. That was awful, but you understand what I'm saying here, hopefully. All right, so we're going to determine the center and radius by putting this into center radius form. It is not in center radius form right now, it's in standard form. So what you have to do is you have to complete the square. Make sure that all the x's and the y's are grouped. That's your first step. So, because if you notice there are two variables here. So I'm going to put x squared minus 6x together, plus y squared plus 2y plus 9. And then you're going to complete the square, but you're going to do it twice because there's x's and y's. First step, remember, is just to move the number over. So negative 9 is over here. Then what you're going to do is you're going to do minus 6x plus blank. There's a blank there, there's a blank on this side too, plus blank. And then plus y squared plus 2y plus blank over here. So now your goal is to complete the square twice. Once for the y's and once for the x's. Okay, now my logic process worked out pretty well here. I want to basically do AM twice. So what numbers would add to negative 6 that are the same? That would be negative 3 and 3, making 9 here because 3 times 3 is 9. But again, if you want to do the magic number thing, negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, and negative 3 squared is 9. Y and Y, what number is that it's the same, would add to 2. Well, you know what that is. It's 1. So it would be 1 times 1. Okay, so plus 1, so 1. I put a 9 on this side, so I'll put a 9 there, and I put a 1. These will cancel, giving you 1. Great. And then what you're going to have is AM on this side. So, oh no, silly. Just write it squared. So now this is your center radius form. So what's your center? Change the signs. It would be 3 comma negative 1. What's your radius? It would be 1 because the square root of 1 is 1. Okay? And that's it. And this is going to set us up for the only question that was on the Regents exam with completing the square, and it's this. Oh, yeah, it is this guy right here. So, first things first, there is a 4 in front of the x squareds. So you should divide these all by 4. And just if you notice, all the choices do have 4 in them. Okay? So this will become x squared plus, minus 6x. So basically they're trying to get you to get the same equation, like it's equivalent to one of these. So what you're going to have to do is put it in that form. If you can see that it looks like the equation of the circle with all the squareds there, I do want you to complete the square. So plus blank plus y squared plus, what's 72 divided by 4? I think it's 9, hopefully. No, 18. That would be easier to work with anyways. Plus blank equals 76 divided by 4, 19. Plus blank. So you're going to find a perfect square that would make negative 6, which would be negative 3 and negative 3, so that'll be 9, so put a 9 here. What would add to 18? Well, that would be 9 and 9, so 9 squared is 81, because 9 times 9, and then 81 would be here. So you're going to get x minus 3 all squared, plus y plus 9 all squared, and then 19 plus 109 plus 81 is 109. Now if you notice, none of the choices have 109, but remember we took out a 4, so you have to put the 4 back in to make this still equivalent. So what's 109 times 4? 436. So hopefully that's an answer for this. Yep, place 4. And that's your lesson on completing the square. So I hope this helped you remember the process from Algebra 1. And it's not very common on the Regents, but now that you know how to do it, it'll be useful for you.